would prefer to work in 96K, but my CPU, as of 2021, cannot handle that. So hopefully the next MacBook I get or the next tower I get will be able to support 96K. But right now, it just can't handle that. Gargoyle Mode said, I don't know anyone with a CPU that can do 96K without crapping out. It's too bad, man. What about like a Mac Pro Tower? Can a Mac Pro Tower do that? I would love to have a computer that could do 96K without crapping out. That's my goal. I wish I could always work in 96K. I'm not going to make this an argument why high sample rates are better. Bottom line is people don't understand that even if you don't hear a difference, there are plain as day benefits in working at a higher sample rate if you do sound design or if you produce and do any kind of production that involves sound design. First things first, if you switch from 44.1 to 96K, if you record a sound in Ableton, maybe you can't hear a difference. Maybe you can. For one, reverbs are going to sound better. And the other thing that's very provable, if you record a sound in 96K versus 44.1, you are able to pitch that sound up and down more without losing any fidelity. So if you do a lot of sound design, if you take a hi-hat that you record and pitch it way down, it's going to sound much smoother because of the depth of the recording. If you increase your sample rate, you'll have cleaner sounding pitching. So that's just one reason to record at higher sample rates if your computer can handle it. For me, unfortunately, I have a completely maxed out 2019 MacBook Pro for my production computer. And it can't go higher than 48K for a big session. 96K, it can't handle it. I'm stuck at 48K, which is an improvement over 44.1, but not as good as 88.2 or 96K. Another benefit of high sample rates, as you increase your sample rate, you have less latency. So that's another reason to work at the highest sample rate you possibly can. Let me ask you a question. Is anyone in here working at 96K? If so, what kind of computer are you running? How many tracks do you have? And how is it working out for you? The only time I'll work in 96K is if I'm recording vocals or if I'm recording a beat with no plugins, just audio recording. Timber said he works in 96K. You have a Windows computer, right? With an i7? Timber, let me ask you a question. Is this Ableton that you work in 96K for one? The other question is, how is the profile of those sessions? Are you using a lot of VSTs? Is it mostly you're recording live instruments or vocals? Timber, how are you able to record 96K? Is it because Windows is just better for that? Tell us more about this. I would like to do a test, Timber. Maybe you can send one of your sessions and I can see if it'll play in 96K on a MacBook or if it only will do it in Windows. Okay, Timber said he doesn't use as many tracks. So for me, I use a lot of tracks. 48K works for a big session. I have probably the most powerful Mac you can get. 2.4 gigahertz, 8-core i9, 64 gigs of RAM, and it's an 8 terabyte internal SSD. Not that that matters to sampling rate. Whoa, Mr. Bass Reeves says, I worked at 192K on his HP. Mr. Bass Reeves, how many tracks in the session? How many VST plugins are you using? Okay, he doesn't have a lot of tracks. Well, to be clear, I can work at 192K. I can work at 384. I can work at 768. I can work at those high sample rates, but with the type of sessions I run, I can't. As you have more than 50 tracks, 96K is just not an option with a high-powered MacBook Pro. Goofer G said you could have a 16-core, 3.4 gigahertz CPU. Yeah, I know, but not in a MacBook Pro. I know I could buy a Mac Pro, which I'm not going to do yet because I want to see where they go with this M1 chip. This is my plan. When Apple announces the new MacBook Pro, hopefully with the M1X chip or M2 chip, I'm going to buy a maxed out version, and we're going to do a test on the stream how my 2019 compares to the M1X. Blackjack said higher sample rates work for classical music or like sound design. Trap beats don't need 96K. You know what? It's true. If you're using mostly samples, most of those samples are in 44.1 or 48K. So when you load them into your DAW and you're just making trap beats, I totally get it. You're good at 48 or 44.1. If you're using all drum samples or loops, the best sample rate to work at is actually what those loops were recorded at. That's your best sample rate in any DAW. But like Blackjack said, if you do any kind of sound design, classical music, all that, that's where 96K would really come in handy. DECAP.